Welcome back to Cricket Central, the podcast where we discuss all the stories, big and small. I'm here for the day one recap for the first test between Australia and South Africa, the much anticipated series. And on the first day, I think it very much lived up to the hype. It was an enthralling contest. Just when you thought that one team was on top at any stage in the game, it seemed to swing back the other way. We end at the end of the day with Australia behind by 7 runs after they dismissed South Africa for 152. But some late wickets have the Australians at 5 for 145. I'm here with Omsa Tija, who's very kindly agreed to join the podcast today, even though he himself was playing some cricket today and getting some wickets as well. So, thanks a lot for coming on.
No worries, Ted. Always a pleasure.
And from what you did catch, how did you see the day?
Oh, just an awesome day of Test cricket, I think. As expected, South Africa's batting lineup is a little bit weaker. So Australia did exploit it early, but I thought that little partnership between Bavuma and Verreynne was awesome. And I love the counter punch by Verreynne. But I think Bavuma did his job of just anchoring the partnership and just batting a bit of time. And I think, look, it was about 27 or 30 odd at the end of the day, but pretty, I think, very, very important in the context of their first innings, but a bit of a shame that they bundled so quickly after that wicket, but they do have a long tail. But yeah, seriously, just really good cricket. And then Australia coming out, losing a few wickets early, some amazing bowling, Norkia, Rabada, etc. Jansen getting Marnus out as well, which seems to be the kryptonite of all teams. So, but yeah, I thought Travis Head was, seriously, just time and time again, same time last year against England, comes out and has a counterpunch innings, strike rate of 100. Really can't ask much more. And I think, in terms of his balance in the team, it's a great role that he has and executes. So great days of Test cricket. And I think Australia might have the upper hand now, but the first hour tomorrow, South Africa could bowl them out. We don't know. But yeah, it's just a great day. 15 wickets is better than 7,000 runs and 1 wicket on the road. So yeah, good day.
Yeah, for sure, and plenty of storylines coming out of it. But we'll start off with South Africa's batting innings, and it was, I guess, sort of the story early on was some interesting bowling from the Australians. They didn't really hit their lengths very well. In particular, Pat Cummins, who I think his first 2 bowls went for 4 leg byes. Down the leg side, he was sort of bowling around the wicket, trying to come in to Cyril Irva, a bit off, but there were some good balls in there all the same. They got some wickets. Cummins to get Rassie van der Dussen was a good one, although Rassie probably could have left that one. Elgar was a little bit unlucky, getting strangled down leg, and really, if it wasn't for the Boland show, which came to the Gabba this time, getting 2 wickets within the space of 6 balls. I think getting Kaya Zondo for a duck and Cyril Irva for 10. It could have been a bit of a different story for the Australians. Definitely not a super convincing performance early on, but it did also expose South Africa's weakness in that top order. Do you see anyone there who can be sort of a long-term player for them? Obviously, Elgar's the captain, but probably apart from that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because they always have a lot of talent. And I think, for example, he's not on this tour, but Aidan Markram is one of those guys who for so long was touted as future Test captain. Exquisite technique. Did make some runs in patches, including, I think, the infamous sandpaper tour, as we now know it. But I like Irwi. I just like him. But, there's one thing that had to look good, but, as Dean Elgar shows as well, who's probably got the most horrific technique in Test cricket, just about grinding it out and scoring runs. So Irwi, I don't know the Afrikaans pronunciation, but he's got some nice. I'd like to think that if he just learns to, yeah, if he can just find some consistency at Test cricket, it'd be really good. Um, I still rate some of the other guys. I didn't earlier. I didn't really like Farina, but sort of changed my mind on him. He was awesome, and Bavuma as well. I know a lot of people give him a lot of a lot of fans will don't believe he's ever been good enough to play Test cricket and the likes of that. But I still think he's actually one of their most important players in the middle order. Has a lot of experience now. Obviously, captained the side in the white ball formats, and I think there are a few guys. Van der Dussen. He's in a test. I know his ODI record is good, but Test cricket he's got to work on it. But look, just to answer your question, yeah, I think I know he's also actually pretty old anyway, but I believe he's got plenty of good years of Test cricket if he can find some consistency. He's got a lovely technique. Bit of Sangakkara about him, I reckon.
Yeah, well, that's big praise there, Sangakkara. But I agree. He actually did look. I know it's strange to say for someone who only made 10, but he looked all right. He had a couple of drives and probably
Yeah.
played at one that he didn't have to off of Boland to get out.
Well,
But
Scott Boland, right? You just can't stop that guy.
well, we'll move on to Boland quickly. Just how good is he? You being well, out of all of the Cricket Central group, the most accomplished cricketer. How is he? He's so good. What does he do with the ball?
He does nothing. That's why he's so good. Everyone thinks you have to, he just shows like he just hits it. Like, it's not like he just floats it up there. He zips it through low to mid 130s, but like he doesn't miss. And he just that's all cricket's about. It's a game of mistakes, and he doesn't make any mistakes. He just bowls that boring length all day. He got driven down the ground by Owe. Then he ends up getting him driving and caught a great catch at gully. And you just see like, a lot of times people can overcomplicate cricket and say, and obviously conditions come into play and this and that batsman, but he just shows he's got literally one ball. Doesn't bowl bounces that at Test level really. Doesn't bowl Yorkers. Just bowls the same ball over and over again in the channel, top of off sort of length, and you let the batsman make a mistake, and it just shows it doesn't matter where he's playing or who he's playing against. England, West Indies, South Africa. I'm sure you can get New Zealand or India here. It doesn't matter. At least in in all the Australian pitches he's played on, he's just nagging away, and it's incredible. And he seems to just have a knack of picking up multiple wickets in the same over. It's brilliant, and it's awesome. I just love the simplicity, but of how he bowls. And from the outside, if you saw him in the nets, you probably think he's just a good first grade cricketer, maybe an average state cricketer, but just takes the piss out of Test cricket and shows that, yeah, you can have the Mitch Stark in swinging Yorker at 150 Ks, or you can just hit a good length at the top of off all day and still take a lot of bowls. So I love him, absolutely love him. And I think it's finally good. He's toiled away in state cricket for so long. He was also behind the pecking order, behind so many others domestic bowlers, and James Pattinson was one of those guys who also probably kept him in the shadows for a while. Now Patto's just batting 5 in grade cricket, and Scott Boland's averaging 4 in Test cricket with the ball. So it's incredible.
Beautifully
Love it.
summed up there, and I agree completely. Ethan the other day was, sort of not so sure whether Boland would actually play a role in the Ashes over in England, but I think he's got to be selected in the form he's in.
Last Ashes they did a bit of a rotation policy, which I actually think was really, really good, because they picked, depending on certain conditions of the grounds and sizes, and as much as Mitchell Stark was probably a bit hard done by, they had a very good lineup for each test, and I think Boland will be so crucial. Obviously, the English are firstly just they're terrified of him. A bit of 6 for 7 might be on the cards.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the. I don't think the 3 same bowlers, even if they're all fit, will play all 5 tests. And I think it's so imperative. He'll probably end up playing 2, 3, or 4 of those test matches, I reckon, Scott Boland in England. So, mate, he would be I don't know what Ethan Prabs is on, mate. He'd easily get a plane ticket to England. He's at least, the fourth best seamer in Australia, fast bowler in Australia. And Hazelwood being out of the sidelines, just gives him that.
We don't need Hazelwood. He's better than Hazelwood.
Yeah,
Hazelwood.
honestly, I'm not going to lie. That thought has crossed my mind. Who is Hazelwood? Has he actually been bowling well? I don't know. He's bowled like 10 overs in the last 10 months. I'm really liking Scott Boland. I think, this is just an improved Hazelwood, if you ask me. Obviously, without the bounce and stuff. But nah, it'll be great. He'll play such a big role in the Ashes. I reckon it'll be awesome.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we thought that was sort of the first stage of the match. Boland bowling well. The rest of the Australians being a bit sloppy, but nonetheless getting the South Africans 4 for 27. But then there was a determined and focused partnership between Kyle Verreynne and Temba Devuma, almost getting to 100 runs. They just, they pushed the singles, Bavuma especially. Verreynne punished anything slightly short, and especially punished Cam Green, who's had a couple of tough matches now, especially with the ball, going for 20 off 3 overs, Cam Green. But it was a fascinating partnership, super important. But as he so often does, it was Mitch Starc who got the breakthrough with a beautiful in-swinging ball to bowl Temba Bavuma. And from there, the collapse sort of started. Well, it truly started. They lost 6 for 27 from that stage. But actually, even though it was a green top pitch, we thought it was going to be a paceman dominated wicket. It was Nathan Lyon picking up 3 for 14 off his 8 overs, who wrapped up the South African innings. And on the amount of, I don't know how much you saw, but the amount of turn Nathan Lyon's got, not just in this match, but every match this summer, it seems. Could he possibly be getting better? It's becoming a fantastic summer for him.
Absolutely. And I think one interesting thing, firstly, in regards to spinners, usually spinners mature later as well, because it takes a long time to learn your craft of an off spinner or a leg spinner. And Nathan Lyon is he's obsessed with cricket and obsessed with off spin. So, from all the stories you hear, he just bowls and bowls and bowls and learns his craft. So there's absolutely no surprise. He's definitely got at least 3-4 years, I reckon, left in him. He's in such good form, and he copped a lot of flack early in his career for being inconsistent, especially overseas. But you just see, according to conditions, he can adapt so well. And at pitches like the Gabba and Optus Stadium, or the Wacker even back in the day, obviously they offer generally less spin but more bounce. And whilst a lot of people will look at that and think, yeah, play 4 seamers, they're going to take your wickets. He's shown not just today with the 6 for in Perth against the Windies, and even in the past at Optus, that you can utilize bounce to your advantage as a spinner in Australia. And Shane Warne was another person who spoke a lot about how he enjoyed bowling at the Gabba more than the SCG sometimes, because he could utilize that bounce and get people caught in the close catches and get him struggling with the length. So yeah, he was just exceptional, and I just love there's always some games where even the Windies, I remember one test, they just went after him a bit. He was going at 5 and over. He just sticks to his game plan. Just keeps bowling it on the spot. Sometimes, changes the pace a little bit, mixes with the line slowly. He's just incredible how accurate he is. And yeah, just one of, I just think when he inevitably retires or finishes the game, people will only then appreciate how bloody good he was, because it's very hard to find the caliber of that spinner, especially to bowl like that in Australia. It's very difficult, and he's improved so much since he started, and he's just top notch. He was awesome today.
No, plays such an important role for us. We should also mention Mitch Starc. He was unlucky. He was stuck on 299 wickets after Travis Head dropped a tough one off Lungi Ngidi at bat pad, so he was disappointed about that, but he also bowled well again. Anyway, moving on to the Australian innings, there was drama straight away. The match swung back the other way yet again with David Warner getting out first ball, his horror summer continuing. And yeah, he's sort of poking and prodding at it, and he's desperate to make some runs. But he just looks, well, horribly out of form at the moment, I would have to say. And there's been a few people comparing him to Ponting's last few games in was it 2012 or something. Do you think that that's a fair comparison? Are we seeing the twilight of Warner's career here?
Yeah, look, you never know. Like I always, someone like him, like I mentioned last podcast, I'd always still back him in, and the Australian guys have. But the other thing is like just the way he also played. He was obviously clear. It almost looked like as if when I say premeditated, he just never ever expected a short ball, and that was a really interesting ploy and a great tactic that Rabada did. And it was well executed. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, you would at that height as well, it's a very duckable ball, and he just seemed a bit out of it. So, I think, yeah, he's definitely out of form for sure. Does that mean his career's over? I wouldn't say so. But he obviously has to. It's definitely some mental things he's got to work through. I think Ricky Ponting said at the end of his career that he struggled a lot mentally with getting back to his best, and that the fear of getting out, etc., got to him and resulted in a bit of a drop off. And perhaps Warner's gone through the same thing. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with him if it continues. I think if it really happens throughout the entire South Africa series, obviously it's difficult to experiment a new opener in the subcontinent, but they're just going to have to really work hard on making sure he's at his best at some point, because it's difficult otherwise to manage if your opener's out of form.
Yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a dilemma for us. I mean, there are a few openers at least who are putting their hand up in on Shield level, and in county level. Marcus Harris had a great county summer, been pretty good at the Shield. Matthew Renshaw, my favourite player, he's back opening,
He could be
for
back, mate.
Queensland again.
He's got some runs in India. He could
Yeah, that's
he could
true.
do
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So I guess we got people, but I guess also something I sort of thought about today when Rabada and, well, to a lesser extent Ngidi, but then Norkie, or however you say his name, still don't really know. While they were terrorizing us with their pace and movement, we don't really have the greatest top order, with the exception of Labuschagne and Smith, to go across to England for the Ashes in July. I don't think. Also, David Warner we know his form in England. Usman Khawaja, the criticism of his whole career has been that he's been a little bit susceptible to the moving ball, and while probably just got a great ball by Norkie today, a similar. It is a bit of a pattern to his career. Travis Head, who we'll get to in a minute, was brilliant again with 78, but I mean, the way he plays, you could see him having some struggles in England. Is that a bit of a concern, our top order?
Yeah, look, it is obviously a lot easier to bat in Australia. Well, somehow England proven otherwise the last few series, but you obviously see that, at least with our Australian batsmen who are well accustomed to batting here. They play well. But look, the other thing, if we go over, is that a lot of these guys have experience in England. Travis Head was there the last Ashes series. Khawaja's been there a lot of times for county and whatnot. I think these guys will adapt. I think they'll Ashes. They plan for the Ashes a long time in advance. I think by the time the Ashes comes around, tour games, probably have a bit of a county stint or something, they'll be ready. And I reckon, Travis Head will probably not be just trying to flush at every ball outside off in England. He'll obviously leave some. He'll defend some, as you do in Test cricket. So, these guys will adapt, and I don't think they'll play the exact same way they do here when they go over to the UK. So I have that much faith that they're paid to hit balls. So I assume they'll do something right to adapt to the UK, but still bring that positive intent, because it's an interesting comparison people have made of how Travis Head just kind of emulates the whole Bazball mentality, as people would like to say. So
Oh
perhaps
well,
that's needed as well, because in England, you can
yeah.
also put pressure back on the opposition by scoring with intent. And as Johnny Bairstow, for example, showed quite vividly last English
Yeah,
squad.
yeah, that's a very good point. Well, I like to say that Baz Ball copied Trav Ball, but
I don't
we
think
could
that name's
relinquish
going to
that.
catch on, mate. I don't think Trav Ball has much traction.
You should hear everyone
Not,
saying it over here in South Australia. They're all huge fans of Travis Head over here. No,
no
they're
one
not.
lives in South Australia, Ted, all right? Just,
Uh, Careful.
okay.
I think that might be the end for Om on this podcast. But anyway, we'll try and get this one finished. Just on Travis Head's performance. He scored 175 last test in Adelaide. He's had some other great scores, but I reckon if he goes on to score a century here, this is right up there with one of his best ones because very difficult conditions, especially at the start of his innings with their four-pronged pace attack going at him. And, it doesn't look hugely convincing, his defense. He flays it at the ball a lot, but I mean, he scored 78 off 77 balls, and really the only one to pass 50. Plays such an important role for us, as you mentioned, especially going forward for England. That's very helpful as well. But I guess that the final story of the day is that thankfully the South African bowlers have very much lived up to the expectation placed upon them. I think you would have to say Nortje was the pick of them with 2 for 37. And Ngidi was probably a little off, but Rabada and Jansen getting Labuschagne with his first ball. Finally, Labuschagne's out. I was even getting a bit sick of Labuschagne there. But, I mean, this is a scary pace attacker.
Absolutely. And it's just, I think the variety as well, like Nokia being the out and out express, Rabada being the strike man, Ngidi being probably more the workhorse. He does the hard yards, just ties up an end. And Jansen is just a package, tall, left arm, over the wicket, some real nasty angles and bounce and everything. And you saw that first ball to Marnus was, it just induced a mistake and off the first ball. And that's the sort of flair you need in the side. So I love the all-roundedness of their bowling attack. And and even Keshav Maharaj is an awesome player. Obviously, I don't think he went at his absolute best on the Gabba today. It's obviously difficult to bowl, but I think he'll adapt to it. Keeping in mind, not many people bowl with as much overspin as Nathan Lyon does, so they don't get that advantage on Australian wickets. But yeah, South Africa's bowling attack definitely. Let's hope they close out the innings well and live up to the hype. But if they can remove Travis Head tomorrow, they are well and truly on top.
Yeah, that's right. No, it looked like it was going to be 3 down for a little bit with Smith at the crease there with Head, but Nokia got him, and then Scott Boland. I mean, I don't really think he's our long-term solution as a night watchman, Scott Boland. I reckon we should go back to Nathan Lyon. Anyway, as you say, sets up an absolutely thrilling day 2. There was one final thing I was going to say, but it's slipped my attention now. So I'll move on to the prediction for day 2. Well, there's any number of things that could happen from this position, but what would you say?
You can never predict Test cricket, but 5 for 145 Australia. Oh, look, I think Travis Head will get a ton, but Australia will fold. I think South Africa will clean up the tail. So even if Travis Head gets a ton, I'd like to think Cam Green would make runs, but he's had such limited because of Marnus batting like for 5 days straight. He's barely batted this summer, so it probably won't help him in this case when he comes in tomorrow. I think South Africa will get them all out for about 200, and I think they'll end the day. They could be all out by the end of the day. So, look, I think they'll grit it out. Day 2, apparently, I think they said the Gabba is generally a lot better for batting. Okay, so look, let's adjust it. Let's say Australia make 250 all out. South Africa end the day about 2 for 100. and I say Uwe makes 50.
All right. Well, we'll see how close you get there. We're never very good
Yeah.
at these
How about you,
predictions.
Ted? What are you
Oh,
predicting?
oh no, I don't predict. I let the
You don't
experts,
predict.
you experts, do that. Yeah, Ethan's always the closest on the predictions. Pearson's always well off, as you would probably expect. But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
no,
see how you go. That
that's Pearson
um,
for you.
yeah, the final thing I was going to mention that slipped my mind was South Africa's tactics as well, bowled a lot fuller than the Australians, and well, worked to pretty good effect at challenging the batsmen a bit more, although it does go for a few more runs. And so yeah, there's that interesting sort of aspect of what do you prioritize, the runs or pushing it up there to try and get the movement. All right. Well, yeah, as I say, it's going to be a fantastic second day. Anything could happen. Hopefully, South
Absolutely.
Africa put up a bit more fight with the bat. But regardless, we've got a good test match in our hands. Just finally, before you go on, a quick word on that Sydney Thunder performance last night, all
Oh,
out for 15. What on earth was that?
look, and honestly, I would have seen a European Cricket League team put up a better fight. It's it's honestly just bizarre, I think, and considering a lot of the wickets are caught behind, it's actually actually not you can't actually really fault the batters as well because that's how you play in a T20. You just sort of flush at them and you just hope for the best. Thornton and Wes Agar were swinging it and they bowled bloody well. So I don't even know what to say. I just thought when they were 7 for 10, I just thought, you can even afford to dig in a couple of overs and get through. And then Ollie Davies is just flashing at him outside off, thinking trying to be a hero. So as they say, never try and be a hero. But it was bizarre. I don't think I've ever, no one has ever seen anything like it. A professional side getting by for 15. I think as he messaged me that night, they beat Turkey's record, and I didn't even know Turkey played cricket. So, um, yeah, it's I actually have no words. I just
Yeah.
clearly an amazing bowling performance and just a bizarre spell of T20 cricket. I think it's good to see the ball dominate the bat sometimes because cricket's a batsman's game now. That's how they make the money on TV, which is BS. But you know,
Yeah,
as you saw
definitely.
today, it's way more entertaining with 15 wickets on a day's play than Marnus screaming no run for 200 balls or something, and there's
Yeah.
Smudger at the other end scratching around. Like, yeah, that's great to watch, but you love to see a good contest and yeah, bowling. Um, Obviously having the bias of being a bowler, I much prefer to see
Yeah. Two bowlers
wickets and
here, so
bowling
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's right. No, yeah. All right. Well, I agree with that. Yeah, Henry, the man with six names, Henry Thomas Raphael James York Thornton, bowled a spectacular performance last night. I just have
Yeah,
to say it
product of
every
St
time.
Kilda Cricket Club. He's
Oh,
I think return. He had a bit of I think I read his thing. Apparently, like he was out of professional cricket for a year or so
yeah.
and went back in, and good on him. Bloody, that was one hell of a spell. So put his name in the record books, which is sure he's worked hard for it, and you just got to be lucky some days to get hails and all that, just flashing at him outside off.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you all for listening. We'll see what happens tomorrow, and we're back tomorrow night. Goodbye.